The best time to deal with wasps is before a single nest appears. There is a $2 bottle trap. Old farmhouses placed around barn entrances every spring that catches queens before colonies establish. One queen caught in April prevents a nest of 10,000 workers by August. Most people wait until August. Before building the trap, it helps to understand one thing about the wasp life cycle that changes when and where you deploy it, because most people treat wasps reactively when they already have an established nest, and the problem is at its worst. In late winter and early spring, wasp colonies do not exist yet. Every wasp queen overwinters alone, buried in leaf litter, loose bark, or soil, and emerges in March and April looking for two things: protein to build her first cells and feed the first larvae, and a suitable nest site. At this point in the year, a single queen is the entire future colony. Remove the queen before she builds, and there is no colony. By midsummer, a mature nest contains several thousand workers, and the queen is deep inside it, protected and unreachable by any trap. The trap that works is always a spring trap, not a summer one. And that timing shift is the single most important change most households can make to their wasp management approach. The trap itself is a 2-liter plastic bottle. Cut the top third off the bottle at the widest shoulder point. Invert the cut top section and place it neck down into the bottom section, creating a funnel shape with the bottle neck pointing downward. Tape or secure the seam. The narrow neck now creates an entry point that wasps can fly into, but struggle to navigate back out of. The bait is where this trap differs from summer wasp traps, and it matters. In spring, queens are primarily seeking protein rather than sugar, since they need protein to build the first cells and rear the first batch of larvae. A summer wasp trap uses sweet bait, fruit juice, or sugar water, because summer workers are foraging for sugars to feed the colony. A spring queen trap uses protein bait. A small piece of raw chicken, fish, or any raw meat placed inside the bottle, or a mixture of water and pet food, is significantly more effective for catching queens than any sweet bait during the March to May window. Once the first worker wasps begin appearing in your area, typically in late May or June, switch to a sweet bait of 2 parts water to 1 part sugar with a splash of apple cider vinegar added. The vinegar attracts wasps while deterring honeybees, which are also attracted to sweet traps and should be protected. Hang the trap from a tree branch, fence post, or eave at a height of around 4 to 6 feet, positioned near the spots where wasps most commonly investigate for nest sites. Wasps favor protected overhangs, roof eaves, garden shed roofs, the underside of decking, hollow fence posts, and the space between wall cavities and cladding. A trap placed near these locations intercepts wasps during their scouting phase before they have committed to a site and begun building. Now for the part that makes this method genuinely effective rather than just partially helpful. A single trap running continuously through spring significantly reduces the local wasp population before it reaches the exponential growth phase of midsummer. A wasp queen who successfully builds a nest and raises her first workers can produce a colony of 2,000 to 10,000 individuals by late summer, depending on the species. Queens vary in size and species across regions, with common wasps and German wasps being the 2 most prevalent species across North America and Northern Europe, both of which respond well to protein bait in spring. Each queen caught in spring removes an entire potential colony rather than just one wasp, which is why the multiplication effect of spring trapping produces dramatically better results than trapping workers in summer. Replace the bait every 5 to 7 days in spring, since it loses its attraction and can become a hygiene concern if left longer. Dispose of the trapped contents by sealing the bottle in a bag before emptying it, since disturbing any surviving wasps without protection is avoidable with a small amount of care. Check the trap at cooler times of day, early morning or evening, when insects inside are less active. There is a complementary approach that old farmhouses used alongside the trap that costs nothing at all. False wasp nests made from crumpled paper bags hung in corners of sheds, under eaves, and in areas where wasps commonly investigate, deter queen wasps from beginning to build in those locations. Wasps are highly territorial and will not establish a new nest within several meters of what they perceive to be an existing colony. A paper bag, loosely stuffed and shaped to approximate a nest silhouette, hung from the eave of a shed or outdoor seating area, sends a territorial signal that causes scouting queens to move on. This technique has been documented in pest management literature and is recommended by several agricultural extension services as a chemical-free deterrent for early-season wasp control. It costs nothing beyond a paper bag and takes about 2 minutes to put up. One important note on what this method is not designed for. If you already have an active nest with workers coming and going, bottle traps will not resolve the problem. They will reduce foraging pressure around the trap slightly, but an established nest with thousands of workers requires a different approach. The bottle trap is a prevention tool and a spring management tool, not a solution for an existing summer infestation. This distinction matters because most guidance people find online is written for summer reactive treatment, and applying a spring prevention method to a summer problem produces disappointment rather than results. It is also worth knowing how to distinguish between wasp species in your area, because nesting behavior and therefore trap placement varies in ways that matter. Common wasps and German wasps, the two species most people encounter across North America and Northern Europe, both build aerial nests in protected cavities and under overhangs, and both respond well to the protein spring bait described here. Yellow jackets, which are technically wasps despite often being called bees, frequently nest underground in abandoned rodent burrows, and their scouting queens in spring are looking for ground-level protected sites rather than overhead ones. If yellow jackets are your main problem, a second trap placed at ground level near garden beds and lawn edges, baited with the same protein mixture, gives you coverage for that species alongside the aerial trap. Paper wasps, the slender wasps, with long dangling legs that build the small open-celled umbrella nests often found under porch ceilings and window frames, are solitary nesters rather than colony builders with much smaller populations. And the false nest decoy is significantly more effective for paper wasps than bottle trapping since their territorial behavior is particularly strong. Physical exclusion of nest sites is the third component of a complete spring approach, and the one most people skip because it requires about 30 minutes of work in early spring, but prevents the most frustrating nest locations. Wasps access wall cavities through gaps around pipes, cable entry points, cracked mortar, and the gaps where siding meets trim. The same inspection that identifies mouse entry points in autumn applies here in spring for wasps. Filling visible gaps with expanding foam or caulk before queens begin scouting in March is the most permanent solution available for any location where wasps have nested in previous years, since wasps show strong site fidelity and queens from the same population often return to the same building in consecutive springs. This costs under $5 in materials and removes the problem permanently from any location where wasps have been a recurring issue. There is a reason old farmhouses treated spring as the critical window for pest management generally. A farmhouse in the mid-19th century could not call a pest control service or buy a chemical spray. The entire strategy was built around interrupting pest populations at their most vulnerable point in the year before they reached the size at which they became genuinely difficult to manage. Catching a wasp queen in April with a bottle and a scrap of raw chicken is not a quaint old method. It is the correct point in the wasp life cycle to intervene, and the pest control industry has no financial incentive to tell you that, because the expensive treatments they sell are the ones people need in August when prevention has already failed. If you set this trap up this week using protein bait, position it near your most common wasp investigation spots and check it every 3 to 4 days. At the same time, hang a false nest near your outdoor seating area or shed entrance and note whether wasps that were investigating that area stopped doing so within a few days. The two together, the trap catching scouting queens and the decoy deterring nest site selection, address the two phases of early season wasp establishment simultaneously. The next video covers a similar early season approach to a completely different outdoor pest that most people only think about reactively, and the spring prevention window for that one is even shorter. Stay subscribed for that one. Let me know in the comments whether wasps are already an established problem where you are, or whether you are reading this early enough to use the spring method, because that changes what I cover in the next wasp video.